Hello and welcome to the Farming Today podcast with me, Charlotte Smith. In this episode, the problems and opportunities of the continuing octopus invasion.
The price is holding up well, so fishermen are able to make money and replace their shellfish living with octopus, but we just don't know how long it's going to last.
More on that later. Let's start, though, in Scotland, as later this week we'll be at the Royal Highland Show. Everything from prize bulls to bagpipes in this annual celebration of farming and rural life. Agricultural policy is devolved, so the Scottish Government has developed new post-Brexit farming and environment schemes, which we'll talk more about later in the week. But one aspect is its support for organic farming. The latest figures from the UK Government show a 115% rise in Scottish land farmed organically in 2025. Across the UK, there was a 7.3% rise. Well, the organic certifying and campaigning group, the Soil Association, says political backing and the scrapping of an upper limit on farm size for organic grants has helped. Richard Baines reports from a farm in Fife in the east of Scotland.
I'm in a lush green pasture on Kilburn's farm on the north side of Fife. This farm went organic about 6 years ago. With me is Rachel Ives, who's running the farm at the moment. Rachel, tell me a little bit about the farm.
We've got about 70 acres of herbal ley pasture, which is about 16 different species that all work together to put nutrients in the soil and provide a diverse palette for the sheep. We've got about 140 breeding merino cross ewes. They have a very fine wool, and we get that processed all the way through into yarn, and we sell the yarn. That is our primary product. And then we've got another 70 acres of 25-year-old native Scottish woodland in which we have Dexter and Highland cattle.
So we've been joined now by Dave Shepherd, a volunteer bird surveyor. Dave, what do you see here that's different from the neighbouring field, which is just a few metres away?
30 or 40 different species of birds breed across just the grassland part of the farm. Things like yellowhammers in the hedges, skylarks in the grassland, sedge warblers. Maybe it's the soil health which particularly pulls in the birds on Rachel's farm. I think there's really good earthworms and other soil invertebrates, and that leads to really significant numbers of curlew during the winter months.
Rachel, this all seems to be working well for you, but why was it that you moved into organic farming in the first place?
We wanted to create a resilient farming business that would thrive despite the challenges that we're facing with the changing climate and biodiversity. Going organic was part of that. About 6 years ago, I actually came back to take on the farm. I'd been working offshore in marine salvage. My parents farmed it for a while, but they saw that it was a challenge due to the size, and it was let out for a long period of time. It was an intensive system, but they kept our soil in good heart. There was quite a significant amount of funding from the Scottish Government to go organic. The Agri-Environment Climate Scheme, which we applied for, and for the first 2 years in that scheme, they do give you quite a significant amount of funding to convert arable land to organic land. And that funding helped us to establish our herbal ley and also put in infrastructure like fencing so we could then put our livestock on, which was part of the bigger business plan to make money out of a small farm by having a niche product, which is the wool from the sheep. The key thing was getting that extra funding from the Scottish Government, which managed to kick the whole project off, to put in that infrastructure and get your livestock and get your grass sown.
And do you think that might be behind the surge into organics that we're noting in the figures?
It could well be behind that, and particularly for pasture-based systems, it's not actually that difficult to convert to organic. It's not a major shift. You are not relying upon inputs, so you're not relying upon things like fertiliser and diesel.
That report from Richard Baines. An emergency bylaw has been passed in Cornwall to restrict the number of boats coming in to take advantage of the ongoing bloom of octopus on the south coast. It's been described as a gold rush, as huge sums are being made. 2 weeks ago, Brixham Fish Market experienced a record catch of 103 tonnes, worth £400,000. But the octopus are also causing problems, eating crab and lobster and devastating that industry locally. We'll hear more about the new bylaw in a moment, but first, here's independent fisheries consultant Mike Warner, who told Anna Hill how the new market for octopus is working.
We don't eat octopus in the UK, or very seldom, but the export market has certainly held up, and fishermen are making money. Notwithstanding that, of course, if the octopus were to move away or to disappear for any reason, then that's when the problems start, because we neither have the octopus or the crab and lobster populations, which will take time to recover, many years.
Where are we selling that octopus to?
It's going all over the place, really. I mean, a lot into continental Europe, to Mediterranean countries. They have a great appetite for octopus, but I think also the Far East and the Middle East are seeing exports as well. So it's great that we've got that. And as I say, the price is holding up well, so fishermen are able to make money and replace their shellfish living with octopus. But we just don't know how long it's going to last.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? How long do you think it could take for the crustacean stock to regain levels that were there before the bloom? I mean, do the octopus have to move away completely for the crustacean to recover?
Well, they will really, yeah. I mean, octopus are quite a short-lived species. You know, they only live about 2 years. But if they keep on breeding and that population keeps replicating itself, well, of course, the octopus damage on the grounds will continue. What we probably need is a harsh winter, really, just to break the cycle, if you like, so they're not able to breed and perpetuate their numbers, which will give the crab and lobster a chance. But I mean, we're talking, anything up to sort of 7, 8, 9, even 10 years to see crab and lobster stocks return to the sort of viable levels they were.
So what happens then to the fishermen who are used to catch crustacean and, OK, they might be getting a bit of octopus now, but what happens to them?
Well, exactly. This is the problem. You can only diversify to a certain extent. Talking to some fishermen last week down in Cornwall, they're quite happy on the octopus at the moment, but if that was to disappear and they can't go back into shellfish, they'll have to look to other methods, so gill netting or trawling or whatever. But of course, then all you do is exacerbate that effort or increase that effort onto a different species. So it's a very difficult one to sort of circle, because the octopus at the moment are providing a niche, if you like. But once gone, then, what do we fall back onto? It's a question we haven't really got answers for at the moment.
What does this mean for the price of crab and lobster? Will that go shooting up then?
Yeah, absolutely. So, with less volume being landed of crab and lobster, the price will certainly go up. And as we go through the year, we're in peak sort of crab and lobster season now, really, on the south coast. So the price should be at a reasonable level. But we're finding that with the shellfish export market that we have as well, and the seasonal demand in the UK across hospitality for crab and lobster, well, that price will certainly push up.
Fisheries consultant Mike Warner. Well, authorities in the southwest are trying to manage this situation, and the Cornish Inshore Fisheries and Conservation Authority, IFCA, will bring in that emergency bylaw next month, effectively banning bigger boats from coming in with pots to fish for octopus. BBC Southwest political editor Martin Oates has been following this story and told me why this measure's being brought in.
Well, it's to restrict the number of people potting within the 6-mile limit. Now, the issue here is, of course, the octopus have moved in. They're devastating the crab and lobster. There's been a lot more interest, a lot more activity in terms of potting to catch the octopus, which, as we know, is a valuable harvest in its own right. And the idea is that this may stop further pressure on the beleaguered crab and lobster stocks. In other words, if you've got more pots down, this increases the likelihood that more crab and lobster will be taken as well. So the objective is to relieve that pressure on the crab and lobster stocks. And the method of doing this is to restrict the size of boat. So a little bit technical here, but if you've got a mono-hull boat, it cannot be longer than 12 metres, and a multi-hull boat cannot exceed 10 metres. So essentially those longer boats will be kept out, and the idea is there'll be fewer pots, potentially taking out more of those crabs and lobster. This is Sam Davis, who's the Chief Officer of the Cornwall IFCA.
The aim of this is to reduce the impact of fishing on the crabs and lobsters, which also live in the same environment as the octopus and get caught in the same pots. Clearly, there's a lot more work to be done here. We need to move forwards to look at other ways of managing fishing effort that apply not just to the bigger vessels, but to the smaller vessels as well.
It's really complex, this, isn't it? We've just been hearing about the huge export opportunities and the money that's being made, but that is coming at a cost.
It is. It's a real balancing act. Clearly, if you are keen to remain in the business, the traditional business of catching crab and lobster, you will be hugely concerned by the impact the octopus are having. The scientists are also making the point that although this seems to be the biggest known bloom, as they call it, of octopus, were we to have a significant protracted cold snap, this could kill the octopus off, and you're then left with the worst of all possible worlds, where you've lost this valuable new harvest, but the crab and lobster stocks are devastated as well. Here is Newlyn-based fisherman Andrew Pascoe.
We've no idea if this is going to be a fishery for the next 10 or 20 years, or whether this could be a big bloom this year and we might not see any again for the next 5 years. So we need to look after the shellfish stocks, because that's ultimately all will be left if the octopus don't return. And if all the pot fishermen in our district will have nothing to fish for at all if we don't make some sort of regulation to protect them.
I suppose the authorities felt they had to do something, because boats have come in from all over the place to take advantage here, haven't they?
I think that they acknowledge this is a very difficult thing to respond to. And of course, there are all kinds of uncertainties. One is that we know they're breeding now in UK waters. But again, are they here for the longer term? Could there be a cold snap which gets rid of them again? We're also, I'm told, unsure as to... We know the things they're definitely eating, which is scallops, crabs, lobsters. I think there are some concerns they might be eating other species. They come in very close inshore. The southwest famously has a mixed fishery with a huge range of species. And I suppose going forward as well, and this will be based on the gathering of more data and whether or not they do become established, is DEFRA going to have to reach the stage where they are regarded as a native stock, and then formal management measures are adopted to deal with that.
Martin Oates there. And that's it from us. I'm Charlotte Smith. The producer is Sally Challoner, and Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production. Now over to the BBC Weather Centre for the Farming Today 5-day forecast.